The Galactic Concordance had precisely one law that superseded all others. Extinct species must remain extinct. Dr. Vethris stood in violation of that law, watching the first human draw breath in 4 million years. The resurrection chamber hummed with barely contained energy, its magnetic containment field stabilizing as the reconstructed body completed its cellular cascade. Vethris's 3 primary eyes tracked the biometric readings, while his secondary pair monitored the security feeds. The facility, buried 3 kilometers beneath the methane ice of Titan's southern pole, remained undetected, for now. Neural activity established, announced Aria, the archaeological intelligence Vethris had spent 2 decades programming. Synaptic pathways forming according to the genetic template. Consciousness emergence in 37 seconds. Vethris felt his chromatophores ripple with colors he couldn't name. Emotions his species had evolved past millennia ago, or so the Concordance psychologists claimed. Fear, excitement, the terrible weight of having already crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. The human's chest rose, fell, rose again. "This is insanity," Vethris whispered to himself, his vocal sacs vibrating in the infrared spectrum his species used for private thoughts. But he'd been preparing this moment for 63 years, ever since he'd been a junior paleontologist cataloging the ruins of Earth's final cities, and had found something the Concordance's official histories swore couldn't exist: evidence that humanity's extinction had been engineered. The human's eyes opened. 6 decades earlier, the expedition to Earth had been routine. Sol 3, as the Concordance designated it, held archaeological significance as the homeworld of the most catastrophically failed sapient species in galactic history. Humanity had achieved fusion power, quantum computing, and genetic engineering within a cosmologically brief window, then annihilated itself in what the histories called the Cascade Wars, a 72-hour period of autonomous weapons deployment that had sterilized 98% of the planetary biosphere. Young Vethris had been assigned to excavation site 77 Alpha, cataloging artifacts from what had been called London. The city had been flash-melted by a cobalt-salted thermonuclear detonation, preserving a horrifying snapshot of the final moments. Bodies turned to shadow burns on walls, underground bunkers where families had huddled, hoping structural engineering could outlast physics. He'd been documenting a subway tunnel when his scanner detected an anomaly, a data repository shielded by 6 meters of lead-lined concrete, far too much protection for civilian infrastructure. Inside, he found servers containing 43 petabytes of encrypted data and a message in 17 languages. The English version reading, "We were murdered. We were not insane. Find the proof." It had taken him 30 years to decrypt it all, another 20 to verify it, the final 13 to accept what it meant. The Cascade Wars hadn't been started by human error, or aggression, or the inevitable consequence of a violent species gaining technology before wisdom. They'd been triggered by the Concordance itself, specifically by a first contact team that had evaluated humanity and found them too dangerous to integrate, too innovative, too unpredictable, too willing to question authority structures that had maintained galactic peace for 16 million years. The humans had been given a choice: accept Concordance oversight and the gradual modification of their genome to remove problematic tendencies, or face quarantine. When humanity's governments attempted to negotiate a third option, coexistence without modification, the Concordance's peacekeepers had activated pre-positioned neurotoxic agents in Earth's atmosphere, designed to increase paranoia and aggression. The resulting chaos had done the rest. Officially, humanity had destroyed itself. Unofficially, they'd been deemed too great a risk to the galactic order. And now, Vethris was going to undo that genocide, one human at a time. Present day, Hour 1. The human sat up slowly, movements uncertain, like a newborn learning motor control, which, in a sense, she was. Vethris had reconstructed her from genetic material found in a cryogenic preservation facility beneath what had been Tibet, one of the few regions where vault seals had remained intact. The DNA had been remarkably complete, including full neurological templates uploaded before the Cascade. Her name had been Dr. Kira Volkov, according to the facility records. Neuroscientist, 37 years old at the time of preservation. Uploaded consciousness dated to 3 days before the wars began. Where? The human's voice cracked. She coughed. Tried again. Where am I? Vethris activated his translation implant, switching from Concordance Standard to English. You're safe. My name is Vethris. I'm a xenopaleontologist. You've been dead for 4 million years. and I've committed the greatest crime in galactic law by bringing you back." He believed in directness. Humans, according to his research, appreciated it. Kira stared at him. At his 4-meter frame, his radially symmetric body plan, the sensory tentacles that ringed his upper thorax. Then she looked down at her own hands, flexing fingers, touching her face, testing reality. "The Cascade," she said. "It happened. Yes. And no." Vethris moved to a console, pulling up holographic displays. The weapons were deployed. The biosphere was destroyed. But the event wasn't organic. "You were right to upload your consciousness. Some of you suspected." He showed her the evidence. All of it. The Concordance's internal communications, decoded over decades of patient cryptanalysis. The psychological evaluations that had deemed humanity incompatible with stable galactic civilization. The deployment orders for the neurotoxins. The decision tree that had concluded extinction was preferable to integration. Kira watched in silence, her face cycling through expressions Vethris had learned to read from thousands of hours studying human media. Shock, denial, rage, grief. Finally, a terrible calm. "How many others did you bring back?" she asked. "None. You're the first. The only one I've had resources to attempt." "Why me?" Vethris rippled his chromatophores in what his research suggested was analogous to a human shrug. "Your field was consciousness and cognition. I need someone who can help me understand what I'm attempting. I have genetic samples and neural templates for approximately 12,000 individuals. My goal is to restore your species, but I cannot do it alone, and I cannot do it stupidly. The Concordance will kill us again. Yes, if they discover what I've done, they'll sterilize this entire moon. They have protocols. The law is absolute." Kira stood, testing her balance. The reconstructed body was perfect. Vethris had spent years refining the cellular printing process. She walked to the viewing port, staring out at Titan's orange haze. "So, we're hiding on Titan, in secret, planning to resurrect a dead species." She laughed, a sound that translated as somewhere between humor and hysteria. "And your plan is, what exactly?" "To prove the Concordance wrong," Vethris said. "To demonstrate that humanity's extinction was both unjust and unnecessary. That your species could have contributed to galactic civilization instead of being erased from it." "By doing what? We can't fight them. We couldn't fight them 4 million years ago with our own weapons." "No, but we can shame them. The Concordance operates on consensus and historical precedent. If I can prove humanity was murdered rather than self-destructed, if I can demonstrate that your species would have been valuable rather than destructive, it creates a legal paradox. The Concordance has never committed genocide, officially. It's the foundation of their moral authority." Kira turned back to him. "You're betting they care more about their reputation than about silencing us." "I'm betting that some of them do. Enough of them." Vethris pulled up another display, showing the network he'd carefully built over decades. Scientists, historians, legal scholars, beings from 47 species who'd helped him, knowingly or not, assemble the pieces. "I'm not alone, but I needed you. I needed a human who could speak for humanity, who could prove you were worth saving." She was quiet for a long time. "I'm a neuroscientist," she finally said, "not a diplomat or a politician. You're a human who chose to preserve her consciousness when she saw the end coming, who wanted to survive. That's what I need. Someone who embodies the will to endure, to adapt, to find solutions even when facing extinction. And if I can't, if I fail," Vethris's chromatophores shifted to a deep blue. "Honesty. Then we both die, and I'll have failed the 12,000 souls still waiting in storage, and your species will remain extinct, forever." Hour 72, Kira proved to be everything Vethris had hoped, and nothing like he'd expected. She absorbed information with terrifying speed, her reconstructed neural pathways adapting to processing formats that hadn't existed in her original lifetime. Within 20 hours, she'd mastered the Concordance's primary languages. Within 40, she'd outlined a legal strategy that made Vethris's judicial contacts send emergency encrypted responses. "You can't just present the evidence," she explained, pacing the facility's main laboratory. "The Concordance will suppress it. They've had 4 million years to perfect their control of information. We need to make suppression impossible. We need to make the truth spread faster than they can contain it." "How?" She smiled, and Vethris recognized it as the expression humans made when solving a problem. "You said the Concordance operates on consensus. What's their weakest point?" "The Concordance has no weaknesses. It survived 16 million years of... Everything has weaknesses, especially systems that haven't faced real challenges in millions of years." Kira pulled up displays of concordance structure. Look, 47 member species, thousands of client species, quadrillions of beings. But decisions require consensus among the core 47, which means they're vulnerable to divided opinion. The core species have voted together for 8 million years, because they've never had to confront a genuine ethical crisis in that time. She highlighted specific data streams. The Concordance believes it's a force for peace and stability. What happens when you prove it committed genocide? Not to a pre-sapient species or a genuinely dangerous one, but to a species that was simply inconvenient? Vethris felt understanding cascade through his neural networks. You divide them, force them to choose between covering up the crime and acknowledging it. Exactly. And you do it publicly, simultaneously, through every communication channel in the galaxy, before they can coordinate a response. You make the story spread so fast that suppression would be more damaging than acknowledgement. I don't have access to, but your network does. 47 species, you said. You've been building relationships for decades. How many of those contacts work in communications, data management, academic publishing? Vethris pulled up the relevant files. Kira studied them, her mind clearly racing through scenarios. Here's what we do, she said. We don't just release the evidence of what the Concordance did to Earth. We contextualize it. We show that human extinction fits a pattern. 12 other species in the last 5 million years that self-destructed under mysterious circumstances. All of them right after first contact. All of them evaluated as problematic in Concordance psychological assessments. You found that in the data? You found it. You just didn't see the pattern because you were focused on humanity. But it's there. The Concordance has been quietly eliminating species that don't fit their model. Not through warfare, that would violate their founding principles, but through engineered chaos. And they've been doing it for millions of years. Vethris checked her analysis. She was right. The pattern was undeniable once you looked for it. This will destroy the Concordance, he said quietly. No, it'll force them to evolve. They'll either reform or fracture. Either outcome creates space for humanity to exist again. You've been alive for 3 days. How are you, Vethris? She met his eyes, all 5 of them. We evolved as a species that faced extinction events every few thousand years. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, pandemics. Near extinction was our normal state for 200,000 years before we developed civilization. You know what that does to a species? It makes you very, very good at finding solutions when there aren't any. It makes you the kind of species that uploads their consciousness when they see the end coming. Because even facing certain death, we still believe there might be a future. The Concordance feared that about you, the refusal to accept limits. They feared it because they'd forgotten what it was like to be challenged. They'd created a galaxy so stable, so peaceful, that they couldn't imagine why anyone would want something different. She pulled up more data. But stability isn't the same as justice. Peace isn't the same as right. They built a beautiful system by eliminating everything that didn't fit. And now, we're going to show them what they lost. Hour 96. The data packet was ready. 17 exabytes of evidence, compiled into a narrative so clear that even beings with completely alien cognitive frameworks could follow it. The history of Earth, the Concordance's evaluation, the decision to deploy neurotoxins, the subsequent cover-up, and the pattern. 13 species, including humanity, quietly eliminated over 5 million years. Kira had titled it simply, The Extinction Files. Vethris's network was prepared to distribute it simultaneously across 8,000 academic institutions, news networks, and public data repositories, spanning all 47 core species and 600 client civilizations. The release was timed to occur during the Concordance's Grand Assembly, when billions would be watching the proceedings. Once we do this, Vethris said, there's no reversing it. We'll both be marked for termination. Every enforcement division in the galaxy will be hunting us. I know. Kira's hand hovered over the transmission key. But I've been thinking about something. You broke the law to bring me back. You risked everything to resurrect an extinct species. Why? Vethris considered the question. He'd asked himself the same thing 10,000 times. Because I was there, he finally said. On Earth, walking through your ruins, seeing the evidence of what you'd built. The art, the science, the families that died holding each other. And I realized that extinction isn't just the end of a species. It's the end of every perspective that species would have contributed. Every question they would have asked. Every problem they would have solved differently than anyone else could. He pulled up images from Earth. The ruined cities. The books turned to ash. The music that would never be heard again. The Concordance believes they created peace by enforcing homogeneity, by removing anything too different. too disruptive. But I studied paleontology. I know what happens to ecosystems that lose diversity. They become fragile, unable to adapt, and eventually, they collapse. His chromatophores shifted through colors rapidly, a sign of deep emotion. The galaxy needs humanity. Not despite your tendency to question and challenge and refuse limits, but because of it. We need species that think differently, that see solutions we'd never imagine. We need the kind of beings who'd upload their consciousness and wait 4 million years for someone to find them. Kira was crying. The tears fell slowly in Titan's low gravity. "My entire species is dead," she said. "Everyone I knew, everything we built, gone for so long that our planet doesn't even have our name anymore. Sol 3, a catalog number. Yes, and I can't change that. I can't bring back the Earth you knew, or the people you loved. I can only offer you a chance to ensure they're remembered, to prove their existence mattered, to make certain humanity's voice is heard in the galaxy, even if it takes the form of accusation and challenge." She wiped her eyes, placed her hand on the transmission key. "Aria," she said, "execute the release." "Executing," the AI responded. "Transmission in 3, 2, 1. The data packet began propagating across the galactic network at the speed of light, jumping through relay stations, bouncing between satellites, infiltrating academic databases and public forums. Within microseconds, it was everywhere. Within minutes, it would be read by billions. Within hours, the Concordance would have to respond. Alarms began shrieking immediately. Vethris's security systems detected incoming encrypted communications, override codes being deployed, tracking algorithms being activated. "They know," he said. "Location compromised. We have approximately 14 minutes before the nearest enforcement division can reach Titan. Then we have 14 minutes to make one more point." Kira moved to the resurrection chamber's control panel. "How many other humans can this system restore simultaneously if we eliminate safety margins and push the power cells to maximum?" Vethris calculated. "Perhaps 7. But without proper cellular integration, the failure rate would be 63%. I know. I read the specifications. But that means at least 2 or 3 will survive. And they'll be witnesses. Living proof that humanity didn't consent to extinction. Kira, the energy signature will make our location impossible to hide. They'll be here in minutes." "Good. Let them come. Let them stand in a room with living humans and explain to the galaxy why we deserve to die." She began selecting genetic templates from the archive. Scientists, engineers, artists, different continents, different cultures, different specializations, a representative sample of what we were. Vethris understood. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about making a statement so profound that the Concordance couldn't erase it. "Aria, begin resurrection sequence. Full power. All chambers." The facility thrummed with energy as magnetic fields stabilized and cellular printers began their work. 7 bodies taking shape simultaneously. Cells cascading into tissues, into organs, into systems. The power draw was catastrophic. Every backup system screaming warnings. "Enforcement Division detected entering Titan's orbit," Aria announced. "ETA, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. The first of the new humans gasped to life. Male, genetic template identified as Dr. James Osei, bioethicist from the Gold Coast region. He stared around in confusion. "Welcome back," Kira told him in English. "You've been dead for 4 million years. We have about 5 minutes before the beings who killed us the first time arrive to finish the job. Are you ready to testify?" To Vethris's amazement, the human laughed. 4 million years? That's gotta be some kind of record for being fashionably late. 2 more humans stabilized. Then a 4th. The remaining chambers showed cascading failures, cellular integration breaking down. But 4 humans now stood in the laboratory, alive and aware and ready to serve as witnesses. 3 minutes, Aria said. Vethris activated the facility's final defense, a broadcast system tied directly to the Concordance's emergency network, normally used for disaster alerts, now repurposed to ensure that whatever happened next would be seen by billions. "I am Dr. Kira Volkov," Kira said. "Humanity did not consent to extinction. We were evaluated, judged, and eliminated because we didn't fit the Concordance's preferred model of civilization. We're not asking for revenge. We're demanding recognition that what happened to us was wrong, that erasing a species for being inconvenient is not peace, it's tyranny." 2 minutes, Aria said. Vethris could see the enforcement vessels on his displays now, massive ships designed to neutralize threats without damaging the surrounding environment. They'd use targeted quantum disruption to disassemble every atom in the facility, leaving Titan intact while erasing all evidence of what had occurred here. But billions were watching, and the extinction files were spreading through every database in the galaxy. The truth was loose. And truth, Vethris had learned from studying humanity, was harder to kill than individual beings. Whatever happens to us, Kira continued, remember this moment. Remember that extinction is not always natural. Remember that consensus can be wrong. Remember that peace without justice is just another word for silence. The humans stood together, 4 representatives of a murdered species, refusing to go quietly a second time. 1 minute, the communication network exploded with responses. Scholars demanding verification, politicians calling for immediate investigation, species representatives breaking from the consensus. The concordance fracturing in real time as beings across the galaxy confronted evidence they couldn't ignore. And then, something Vethris hadn't anticipated. The enforcement vessels slowed, stopped, held position in orbit. Receiving transmission from Concordance High Command, Arya said, confusion evident even in the AI's synthetic voice. Requesting negotiation? Vethris felt his chromatophores flash colors that corresponded to human shock. Requesting? A holographic figure materialized in the laboratory. High Arbiter Kellis, one of the Concordance's founding species, whose civilization had achieved spaceflight when Earth was still dominated by dinosaurs. Dr. Vethris, the Arbiter said, you have created a situation without precedent in 16 million years of galactic governance. We have options. We could destroy you and suppress the evidence, though at this point such suppression would be incomplete and would generate more suspicion than it resolved. Or we could acknowledge that our legal framework contains a profound contradiction that has never been tested. You're admitting to genocide? Kira demanded. I'm acknowledging that actions taken in the name of stability may have violated the principles that stability was meant to serve. The Arbiter's form rippled, a sign of discomfort in their species. The Concordance is currently experiencing its first genuine constitutional crisis in 8 million years. 47 species are discovering that consensus built on incomplete information is not consensus at all. We are debating. Debating whether we deserve to exist? Osei asked. Debating whether we have the right to make that determination. It's a question we thought we'd answered. Apparently, we were wrong. The Arbiter focused on Vethris. You've endangered everything we built. The longest period of peace in galactic history. Quadrillions of beings living in harmony. Peace built on graves, Vethris replied. Harmony enforced through elimination. That's not civilization. That's stagnation, pretending to be wisdom. Silence. Then, perhaps, the debate continues. In the interim, I'm authorized to offer a stay of enforcement. You and the humans will be granted protected status pending investigation. The Concordance will review all evidence in the Extinction files. If your claims are verified, then what? Kira pressed. Then we will have to decide what kind of civilization we actually are, and what we owe to the species we erased. The Arbiter's image flickered. 13 species, Dr. Vethris claims. 13 perspectives we removed from the galaxy because they made us uncomfortable. If true, then perhaps the real threat to galactic civilization was never the species we eliminated. Perhaps it was us. The transmission ended. The humans and Vethris stood in silence, processing what had just happened. They weren't safe, far from it, but they were alive. And for the first time in 4 million years, humanity had a voice in its own future. What now? Osei asked. Vethris looked at the genetic archive. 12,000 souls waiting, a species in storage, hoping for resurrection. Now, he said, we see if the Concordance can evolve, if they can acknowledge what they did and commit to being better, and we prepare to wake the others. Because whether the Concordance accepts you or not, humanity has already answered the only question that matters. What question? Kira asked. Whether you would survive, whether you would endure, whether you would fight for existence even when it seemed impossible. Vethris's chromatophores shifted to colors that approximated human warmth. You've been extinct for 4 million years. You woke in a galaxy that murdered you, and your first instinct was to demand justice, not just for yourselves, but for every other species that was silenced. That's not just survival. That's the kind of perspective the galaxy lost when we eliminated you, the kind it desperately needs back. Kira smiled. You broke every law in the galaxy for this? For this. And because some laws deserve to be broken. Some rules exist only to maintain the status quo when the status quo is wrong. He pulled up the genetic archive display. I studied your species for 63 years. You know what I learned? Humans don't accept extinction easily. You fight. You adapt. You find ways to endure that no one else would imagine. And sometimes, you convince an alien scientist that breaking the law is less important than doing what's right. The facility's systems chimed, messages flooding in from across the galaxy. Scientists requesting access to the data, legal scholars offering assistance, species representatives demanding explanations, and deep within the communication stream, encrypted notes from Vethris's network, the 47 beings who'd helped him assemble the evidence. They'd known. Some of them had suspected all along what they were really helping him build, and they'd helped anyway. "Looks like you're not as alone as you thought," Kira observed. "Neither are you," Vethris replied. "Humanity isn't extinct anymore. You're just beginning, again, in a galaxy that's about to learn what it means when a species refuses to stay dead." Outside, Titan's orange atmosphere churned with methane storms. The enforcement vessels held position, waiting for orders that might never come. And across the galaxy, quadrillions of beings confronted a truth they'd never imagined: that their perfect, peaceful civilization had been built on silent graves, and the dead were finally speaking. The resurrection chamber hummed, ready to wake 12,000 more. Humanity, once extinct, was about to rejoin the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same.